Roger Shepard for airing this public service event and airing it to our community. It's a great service when they do that. As you know, 1 year ago, approximately 1 year ago, I appeared before the public to discuss the financial conditions of the city, the effects that the recession had on municipalities and their revenues. Since that time, a lot has happened. We've made significant budget cuts. We've imposed a fee, as everybody is well aware of, to help cover the cost of services and actually to improve services and make them more efficient. Tonight, my purpose is to follow up on that information. I told everybody last year what the conditions were, and I'm sure many people, I know many people are expecting to know how this is played out. I get questions all the time, so I thought it was beneficial to come on television and tell everybody just exactly what the condition of the city is. Of course, following the presentation, just like all my town hall meetings, I know many of you have been to some of those at different locations. You'll be free to certainly ask any questions, and we'll answer all the questions we can ask. First of all, the first thing I want to do tonight, since it has been a year ago, and so much said, is to dispel some of the rumors and some of the misinformation that has been out there for a year. And if we just go to the first slide. A lot of people have thought that the reason we imposed a fee was, or were short on revenues because we overspent our budget. And that simply isn't true. Cities aren't allowed to overspend their budget. State law requires us to have a balanced budget, and so we can't spend it or overspend our budget. We end up in pretty significant trouble with the state. The second thing you hear every once in a while, the city is going bankrupt, and of course the city is not. Unfortunately, across the country, there indeed have been cities that did go bankrupt and are going bankrupt, and we're lucky that we are financially sound and are not going to go bankrupt anytime, even into the future. And then, of course, the other thing is the city's in debt. Well, the city's debt level has never risen significantly. For decades, we have an ongoing lease purchase of materials and vehicles. We purchased police cars, fire trucks, sanitation trucks, Packer trucks, dump trucks, equipment. All that is done on lease purchase, and we are always making payments on equipment, but that had not changed significantly at all. And so I wanted to dispel those rumors because the fact of the matter is, if we go to the next slide, it's very simple to explain exactly what happened preceding last year. First of all, as you can see in the budget year of 06 and 07, the B&O, business and occupation tax, which is really our biggest tax, and one of the only two taxes that we're allowed to impose, was $1.7 billion. And as the recession, the financial recession started hitting in 2008, as you remember, it was in the fall of the national election when things really started coming apart financially. And since that time, we've lost about $1 million in just in business and occupation revenue. Now, other revenues have went down as well. It's not just business and occupation, but that certainly is our bigger one. Things like gas and oil tax has been reduced as well. Coal severance, building permits. When the recession started, a lot of people quit building. A lot of businesses quit expanding. They didn't have the money, and or they were fearful going into the recession of spending a lot of money. And a lot of people were rightfully so holding on to the money during that period of time. And because of that, the state actually told us for a couple of years in a row to budget and expect another 2% decrease in the business and occupation tax. And we did certainly do that. During that same period of time, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that the community development block grant funding reduced as well. That's reduced nationwide. And a lot of people don't understand what the community development block grant money is for, and actually it is for the city to assist in economic development and also to perform projects in low and moderate income neighborhoods. And when the money reduces, obviously that reduces our ability to service some of the underserved neighborhoods. And we have a lot of underserved neighborhoods throughout the city, but again, a low and moderate income need a lot of work on the infrastructure. So that was another issue at the same time. Another issue that we were facing was the fact that, if we go to the next slide, the revenues in the city hadn't been raised in some cases for nearly 3 decades. Matter of fact, police and fire fees still yet have never been raised. Certainly business and occupation tax has never been raised either. We're not maxed out on business occupation taxes. Most of the cities in West Virginia, including Vienna, is maxed out on what they've been charging Vienna. We've not done that, and the reason we don't do that is because we don't want to run business off. We want to be just a little bit more business friendly. And we are the only city in the state of any significant size that is still yet to ever impose a utility tax, which is a 2% tax on utilities. And so we stayed away from those type of things and still are staying away. However, when you go 25, 30 years without raising any revenues, obviously it's going to catch up. And all this hit at the same time that the recession was hitting as well. Also at the same time, our cost to do business was increasing significantly. The personnel costs are always an issue. But as you can see, at the time we were, again, a couple years ago, we were 12th, even though the third largest city, we're a distant 12th in the amount of taxes and fees that we charge our citizens. Even with the user fee, when it went into effect, put us between 9 and 11 in that area, 9, 10, or 11, in the amount of fees that we charge. You can see Charleston, what it costs per resident to live in Charleston. And you can see in other cities what it costs. And again, although that's good news, the fact of the matter is that it really was too low. When we're going into a recession, the revenues are starting to decline. So that added to this issue as well. I've said that many times, and everybody thinks I'm trying to blame other administrations and other people. That's not the case at all. It's an absolute fact that things have not been raised, and that has added to, or did add to this issue. The police fee is $4 per resident. It's been that way since 1982, and it's not likely to change. The other thing that we've absorbed that other cities haven't is, we've not implemented a storm water management fee. We talked about storm water management just a little bit, but other cities, and again including Vienna to the north of us, have had to institute last year's storm management fees on residences and also on businesses. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you how the cost of businesses or doing business has went up for the city. Municipalities really don't get any breaks. As a matter of fact, I mentioned before, I think even this setting last year, when it comes to putting contract work out to bid, we are even hampered by that because we have to pay prevailing wages. Don't mind that at all. Don't mind paying union wages or prevailing wages, but the fact of the matter is we're mandated to do it. If we have concrete poured, it's a much different price, a much higher price than if you, ladies and gentlemen, have a driveway poured at your house. But at the same time, when we purchase in bulk, and we may get a little bit of a cut on the price by purchasing concrete, asphalt, those type of things in bulk. But when the prices rise, they rise on us as well. And again, going back to 2006, when the B&O tax was much higher, the revenues were much higher. You can see what a ton of asphalt was then, $45, and now $65. There's a significant change. Concrete up to $95. And next year, they were telling us that the concrete is going to be near $100 for a square yard of concrete. So it's going to rise yet again from this. Same with cold mix. Cold mix is the style of asphalt that we use in the wintertime to try and fill potholes, as opposed to what we use as hot mix, obviously, in the summertime, because the plants are closed in the winter and you're not able to buy the hot asphalt. And then, of course, aggregate gravel has went up significantly as well. Also, at the same time, we've had to fill the increases in utilities. When the Allegheny Power or whoever else raises the rate on electricity, we pay that same rate. It raises for us. There's no breaks for government entities, like I think some people think. Salt, as you remember, of course, it's back down a little bit. But 4 years ago, it was $48 a ton. It went up to $104 a ton a couple of years ago. Now it went back down to around 70. And it's still high, and we're thankful that it went down from the 100 that it once was. And at the same time all this is going on, we also knew, we were very against the public, and still are, that we have a lot of things that we're behind on. And if we go to the next slide, you know, we've done a lot of road work this year, but the fact of the matter is for probably 10 years, or maybe actually longer than 10 years, you know, the city has only been able to put together enough money to do about $400,000 a year in paving contracts. That doesn't go very far. You know, 50, and even with everything we've done this year, still about half of our streets are below fair. You know, they can last a couple more years, some of them. Some of them are poor, and some of them are even listed as being failed. So we know that we have, you know, as much work as we've done this year on streets, we have easy another $5 million just in milling and paving to do on streets. And again, a lot of people don't see that because they're not back in the neighborhoods. And you know, we try to keep up with the thoroughfares around the city. But the fact of the matter is, people live in the neighborhoods, their streets are falling apart as well. You know, they pay taxes as well. They deserve to have good streets, just like the ones that everybody typically sees. And so, you know, we have a lot of work left in streets and sidewalks in some cases, and at least $5 million again in the paving that still is ahead of us. And by the way, by the time we ever get to that $5 million mark, other streets that we've just done are going to need to be paved again. So it's always going to be an ongoing issue with good and safe streets. Housing, you know, a lot of complaints we get is about the dilapidated housing, vacant houses, and those type of things. And they always want the city to do something. Well, there's a mechanism for that. That mechanism is the city can buy dilapidated housing, take it by eminent domain, then they can pay the $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 it takes to tear that house down and make a lot that if we sell it, we might get $2,000 out of it. And there's easily $3 million worth of vacant, dilapidated housing that we could take. And we do like to take them down. When people abandon houses and they leave them, they move out of state, maybe there's absentee landlords, those type of things. You know, we don't mind going in and taking those houses down that can't be saved, they're not structurally sound to rehab, and make you know, just a green spot or a green place, if nothing else. But two things happen when we do that. Again, we pay a lot of money, sometimes we pay money for the house, and then we pay a lot of money to have it demolished, and then we end up with a lot that by our own code is not suitable to build on. We end up with a 30-foot lot that no one's allowed to build on. So it just sits there. Sometimes we're lucky enough to get 2 lots side by side, and when we do that, we might be able to sell a little bit. We usually give that to Habitat for Humanity so that they were able to build some houses also. But and besides that, you know, we've all heard about the fire stations. We have 3 fire stations that were built during the Great Depression, and during the year of 1931 to 1933 through the old WPA program. And as much as I like history and I like old buildings, the fact is, and I don't mind keeping those, but they need a lot of rehabilitation. You know, some of them, the structure is cracking. They're all 3 of those are very much outdated. And certainly, and I've told firemen this myself, I wouldn't want to stay in some of them. They're really in bad shape. They either need a lot of work to be rehabilitated, or they need to be taken down and build new fire stations, new modern fire stations, even in different places from where they're at. Now that does not equate to closing down fire stations. You know, we have 6 fire stations, and from the fire study that we ordered 3 or 4 years ago, we found out that even though they're old fire stations, and the city this size doesn't need 6 fire stations, the fact is we've had a very limited loss of life in fires, and certainly no damage or injuries, fatalities of firefighters because of the proximity, the number of stations, and the proximity of where we're at. It also adds very much to our response time to fires as well. So, you know, but eventually we'll have to replace them. That doesn't even talk about the fire trucks. You know, one of the things we did this year with some of the increased revenue was we purchased a fire truck that had been previously funded by Community Development Block Grant money, which meant it had to stay in low and moderate income. We purchased that, or paid the remainder of it also, that we would put it into a place where it's more useful to all the systems, put it into a fire station where it could go anywhere in the city instead of just the low-income areas. And we've had estimates or reports that we need 8 new fire trucks. Well, the fact is we may, but if we can buy 2 more just out of general fund in the future, that'll put us in pretty good shape. But when we buy them with community development block grant funds, what that means is they have to stay in fire stations that are in a low-income area. And so that eliminates station number 4 at West Virginia Avenue. It eliminates station number 5 on Blizzard Drive. It eliminates the fire station on Liberty Street. So there are these 3 fire stations that you can put those trucks. It's very difficult to then maneuver the fire trucks and equipment around. So, as much as, and that's what the increased revenues are used for whenever we increase them. We'll go to the next slide. I talked a little bit about the storm management utility. As you can see, we have the federal and state regulations, the EPA, the state DEP, mandated us, and they did this at least a decade ago, us and many other cities, to start a stormwater utility. Again, a lot of people don't realize that the city of Parkersburg is responsible for rainwater. When it rains, we're responsible for how that gets to the Ohio River. And so we're supposed to be having an education program. We have had an education program. We've had meetings about it. We've certainly had pamphlets. We've put little placards on the drain or stormwater inlets all through the city, letting people know that this inlet goes to the Ohio River, goes to the river. So hopefully they won't be pouring oil and everything else when they down those drains when they change the oil in the car. But the fact of the matter is in a study done by Burgess and Nyepel, there's a couple $100 million worth of stormwater improvements that are looming in the future. We have to make sure that the stormwater and the sewer system don't mix or overlap, that it doesn't combine. Eventually there's going to have to be filters in all the stormwater culverts that run underneath the city to filter out things before it does get to the river. And just to repair. We have a lot of small stormwater systems, particularly in North End. That's why you see flooding. That's why on television about once a year you see water running across the parking lot of River City and across Murdoch Avenue into Pond Road. That's because several blocks away, the stormwater system is not big enough to handle a quick, large rain. In addition to that, we have miles of stormwater culverts underneath the city that are a century old anymore. And we just had one collapse on that 5th and Julian. It's big enough to walk through. It's made out of brick. It's a turn of the last century when that was put in. So that is, again, going to be an always ongoing thing. And we've been told time and time again that if you don't start a stormwater utility, eventually you're going to be facing some significant penalties. And so we have to do that. It's going to be about $500,000 a year. Most cities do that by imposing a stormwater fee. Morgantown, Fairmont, again, Deanna just did it last year, $4 a house a month, $10 a business a month. We think we can avoid that. We've been absorbing that fee for many, many years instead of imposing it on the citizens. It's been very easy 10 years ago to come up with a stormwater fee. Haven't done it, and I do not believe we will need to do that. I believe as the economy improves with the increased revenues, that we will be able to take up our own stormwater issues without imposing a fee on the citizens or the businesses in the city of Parkersburg. But it is going to cost about $500,000 a year to do. And that's something I mentioned to City Council the other day. That's something I intend on taking back to City Council during the budget if, in fact, our revenues are doing well enough. And right now they are. When I talk about the revenues are doing well, we were expecting, told to expect a 2% decrease in business and occupation taxes. We've actually had a slight increase. To cover the carryover last year, we had borrowed several $100,000 out of our own capital reserve to replace the carryover. We've been able to pay that back. And our capital reserve is actually back up and more than what it is. It's not enough. I mean, a capital reserve of just over $1 million for the city this size is nothing. It really should be 3 or 4 times that. And now, since this last recession, the government has actually allowed, changed the rules allowing cities to have a much bigger capital reserve because they saw in this dip in revenue what happened to cities all across the country. And they're advising to have a much bigger capital reserve so we don't go through that again, or at least we can be more prepared for it. And then through the next one. At the same time, we talk about the cost of business going up. State mandated regulations on cities continue to go up as well. The police pension and the fire pension compounds at 7% each and every year. This year, just a snapshot of this year, we had to add $50,000 to police, $200,000 to fire, $250,000. That'll be added into the total amount that we pay every year, which is a few million. And next year it'll compound 7% of that total amount, so it'll be more than $250,000 next year. And that doesn't level out till 2025. And again, it's a state mandated actuarial that we're not allowed to tamper with. We're certainly not allowed to say we're not paying it. We have to pay it. And the fact of the matter is, most pensions, including ours, are fully funded in 2049. So it's an ongoing issue that is purely out of control of municipalities. And needed a change a long time ago at the state level, the state legislature, when they built in cost of living and those type of things into pensions. But these are some of again, the state mandated things that we have no control on, are over, and they increase year after year after year. Even the public employee retirement system last year, the state of West Virginia is in great shape. The fact of the matter is they face, and that's said a lot, how well West Virginia is doing. They are doing well, they're doing much better than almost every state in the country, and I'm certainly proud of that as well. But the fact is, they have some of these unfunded issues in their public employee retirement systems, which we're part of. So many recall, and the city council certainly recalls this painful little tidbit that right in the middle of all this controversy last year, the state told us we were going to have to start contributing more of a percentage to the public employee retirement system. And it went from, again, from 11% of our payroll to 14.5%. It may go, and we're expecting higher. We're expecting that to peak out at 17%. Again, just as a reminder, this was the issue. They wanted it all at one time, and then Governor Manchin went back to the legislature and made them rework it, and got it to where gradually over time we'll get to that 17%. But again, state mandate, something that we don't have control over. And it doesn't matter if we fire every city employee. This is the actuarial, particularly police and fire, that we have to pay for future benefits to the state. So it's not dependent on the number of them. It doesn't matter if nothing changes, it really doesn't matter. Those percentages still remain the same, and again, they're still mandated. We go to the next thing. And that's really the list of all the things that hit at one side, or one time before I go into what we have been able to accomplish. When all those things come at one particular time, this is public information, by the way. This is not something that's made up for a PowerPoint presentation. It's in the budget. You can get on the state auditor's websites and the state treasurer's website. They'll talk about these pensions and percentages and budget numbers and all those type of things. So it's very significant, not just to us, it's also very significant to other cities as well. But thankfully, over the last year, we've been able to do a lot of work in the city. Matter of fact, the complaint now is that the streets are bad. The complaint is you can't go very far without being stopped for a paving contract, and that's good news. Not just on the city side of it, but on the utility board side of it. We've already done millions of dollars and we promised improvement to water and sewer lines. And it's an inconvenience. Anybody living in the Fairview Avenue area particularly knows what an inconvenience it was for the utility board, their contractors, to cut down the middle of the road, replace a line that was decades old, and it went a long time before they were able to get it built and paved. But certainly once it was done and Fairview Avenue was completed, built and paved, it's a very nice street. There's other streets still, even the utility board side of it, that are going to be done and repaved, like Stella Street. Stella Street's split up right now, but at the end of the season, before this season's out, we will have milled and paved the entire Stella Street, which probably hasn't been done in at least a decade. And that's not even part of some of these figures that are up there. What the increase in revenues have done for us is allow us to use other monies that we typically wouldn't have used when times are tough. You know, besides just the general funds, you know, we've also been able to free up some of the CD money, and a little bit of it for low to moderate income. The 14th Avenue reconstruction that goes up to Edison School and Martin School is something that's been funded actually for several years. We were finally able to get it out to bid. That's a total reconstruction of 14th Avenue, and with the CD money, community development money. And just a couple of 3 years before that, we did 12th Avenue, which is the other egress and ingress into that same area with community development block grant, because it is a low to moderate income, and they typically want you to take the entire street out and put back new curbs, gutter, and streets. So we've done a lot of that. We had 2 different contracts this summer as money came in. Some of it had to do with when money came in. Some of it had to do with wanting to wait till Fairview Avenue was done, for example, before we got into that paving contract. Coal severance, in the budget we designated coal severance for streets, and we've been doing a lot of work around the city with coal severance. Some of the smaller streets that didn't require a milling machine to take up the old asphalt, we could just go pay for ourselves. Excuse me, was done with coal severance funds. Slab work meaning that we have concrete streets and the slabs are failing. And we were able to do in-house work. We take those out and put new concrete back in. And this doesn't even include the patching machines that work year-round. This doesn't include the new patcher that we bought a year ago that does a larger square. It doesn't include the old pothole patcher that we've had for about a decade now that does holes all over the city as well. It doesn't include the routine inlets related with the stormwater inlets when they start to fail. A lot of that's been absorbed by our supply money in streets, and it's not even reflected on here. So we've done well over $1 million worth of street work, as we promised we would do last year. We said that if we were able to get a fee, that it would be used for the right thing that has been. And it certainly has been used well in the opinion of many, many people. Let's go to the next slide, please. Just a little story here. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was asked to meet with a site selection company that was hired by a corporation to come in here and start looking at sites for a cracker plant. A cracker plant are the plants that were going to be built in West Virginia that process the byproducts of the Marcellus Shale drilling operation. And the byproducts are used in the manufacturing of plastic. And so there are several sites around the state that are in competition, and there happens to be a site in Wood County that's in competition as well, and it's outside the city. But the site selection company is hired by corporations to go in and take a look at the surrounding area and see if that's where they want to be. See, not only is the site suitable, is the community suitable. So I met with them being the mayor of the principal city. They asked to me because Parkersburg is the larger city. They don't want to create a lot of jobs in a place that the employees wouldn't be happy. And they told me right up front, and I've met with people like that before, these companies, and they told me right up front, if you know the drill, we are here to eliminate this area, because there's so many areas. Our job is to eliminate this area for the selection of a site for the cracker plant. What I could have been telling them, had we not did what we did in the city, what I could have been telling them is things aren't very well. They want to know about the economy. I said, and I told them, I said, the national recession had a pretty heavy effect on us here. I said, but we didn't lay off any policemen. We didn't lay off any firemen. We didn't quit doing infrastructure work. We didn't stop projects. We've done a lot of things, and we've and are continuing to do that. And we're very upfront. We have imposed a fee, service fee, but even with that fee, we're still around ninth in the state in the amount of taxes that we charge. We were able to say, we're just completing riverfront parkers. They want to know about the quality of life. That's one of the questions. And what's the quality of life? What can our employees and their families do if they're relocated here? So we're able to tell them about the riverfront. We had just completed the skate park. So we're just getting ready to start bike trails. We talked about all the park improvements, how many parks we have. And at the same time, talking about the fact that we didn't lay off policemen and firemen, I was able to tell them that we're the seventh safest small city in America at this time. And that's on the Spur News Best Places to Live website. And I could have been very, very bleak. Didn't have to be. And we're still in the run. Guarantee you, I said the economy's terrible. We didn't do nothing about it. We're not doing any infrastructure. We laid off police and fire. I guarantee you, we'd still not be in the running for that plant. And what does that plant mean to this area? Even though it's not located in the city, it's between $2 and $4 billion to build. $2 and $4 billion just construction, which means all those construction jobs. If in fact they select this area, and then when they're done, it's 1,000, 1,500 good paying jobs. So are they going to move some places failing, or are they going to move some places moving ahead? And that was my whole. I did the same story I told last year. Why I didn't lay off policemen and firemen, and why I didn't want to cut services. And quite frankly, I'm more than happy to sacrifice a re-election for that move. That doesn't bother me a bit. We have to keep moving forward if we expect businesses to come here. And at the same time, again, the news has been pretty good around. I told you, the B&O actually went up instead of going down, and businesses still have faith in expanding here and coming here. And there's a list of some of the businesses that have built or are building just in the past year. And of course, we've had 6 new businesses downtown. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the other things we've already completed downtown. Car dealerships, they certainly are mandated to do a lot of things for the franchises that they work for. But the fact of the matter is they are doing well enough and have enough confidence to go ahead and invest millions of dollars in rehabilitating their buildings and infrastructure and even new showrooms. So the economic news has been very good in the city of Parkland. It's not been very good in lots of places in the country. If you go to the next one. The other thing that happened, which we are very excited about, was the NIAC group, who now have about $3 million or 3 million square feet of work and warehouse space. And they were the ones that purchased all the property along Depot Street. Our next project that we're excited about is the possibility of working with the federal government, the state government, to have a working port at the site of the Department of Highways property when they move out. Because that allows those warehouses to become useful. Again, something that creates jobs. And again, we're excited about working with Dr. Nyack. One of the other things that is part of his component is he is developing a green research center in the Corning plant. Dr. Nyack's company is a large international importing and exporting company that imports and exports recyclables and materials. And they are researching how to recycle things that we don't even recycle right now, like carpet. They can recycle carpet and end up with a product that is nearly 100% nylon. That's what this research center is going to be doing. They're going to look at everything that might be able to be recycled and develop a way to do it. It's a huge opportunity for Parkland. Quite frankly, Dr. Nyack was right when he said that we could very easily become the greenest city in America, and that would certainly be something to be proud of. Of course, some of the things that everybody's heard about before that she's not been by, or have not driven by the downtown center of West Virginia University, Parkersburg, the facade's done. Still a lot of work to be done on the inside. It is an exciting program and project. It is the reason that new businesses have, in fact, located downtown. I mean, that, the addition of Blue Cross Blue Shield project, kept jobs downtown, it created more jobs, and it gave incentive for businesses to open up in the downtown area. And that's part of what our community development block grant money goes for. And we put several $100,000 into the Blue Cross Blue Shield project to keep it downtown, to keep the jobs downtown. We've probably given $250 million to WVUP to make it ADA accessible, and put in an elevator for those on disability as well. And that's some of the things that the city has to do to keep economic development flowing within the city. But this, that's like the fact that we're very excited about the WVU downtown facility, and it's going to be a great thing once it does finally get open and operating. We've talked about these things that we have, through the last year. We went ahead and completed. I mean, the things we did install, we kept going on those and helping on those. Of course, you know, the riverfront money and the skateboard money was, you know, a lot of federal money, state funds, grants. The skateboard park certainly was grants. Everything the city has in it is property, and I think $52 of the invitations we sent out were having a ribbon cutting. And it's huge. And if anybody hasn't been to the skateboard park, they have the opportunity to go down and look at it, particularly in good weather, you'll see we have 3-4 dozen kids on that thing, and it's been very well used. It's used more than our pools, city park pools, and we put $250,000 a year just to keep the pools operating. This we have nothing in, and it serves little children. And of course, the bike. You know, we've been working on designating bike trails, and finally, this season, we're just getting ready to put out to bid finally the Little Canal Connector that will eventually connect Riverfront Park to the rails and trail system out past the college and into Cairo and every place else that goes. So we're excited to finally get that started as well. And again, these are a lot of things that businesses look at and want before they locate someplace. Again, they don't want to, you know, they hire local for longer employees, but at the same time, they bring a lot of employees in, particularly at the management level, and they want their employees to be happy and have a place where they'll enjoy it. Again, you know, this, in spite of all the things you hear or say, or you've heard said about Parkersburg, read about Parkersburg, the fact of the matter is, in this past year, CNN poll ranked us as the 8th best small city to live in, just behind Wheeling, actually. Certainly the 7th safest small city, which we're very proud of the police and fire department for all the work they do in keeping crime down, and also loss of property on fires and loss of life on fires, because that's based on insurance claims, is how they arrive at those figures. And of course, again, we're still proud of the fact that we're still one of the lowest per capita cities in the state, and will remain there. So again, you know, the purpose of tonight for me to give an update of where we are from last year. This is where we've come from a year ago when we started talking about the recession, the loss of revenues, and the city finances. And I'm more than happy to open it up to questions. Ms. Konajewski will have the microphone, and she'll hold the microphone for you, by the way. And if you just ask one question at a time, that way everybody will have the opportunity. So does anybody have any questions? I have. We'll come back to you.
You mentioned that we hadn't raised the fire fees or police fees since 1982.
Yes.
But we are currently running a deficit between revenue and expenditures in both those departments to the tune of over $8 million. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure what your question is. You're asking if the police fee and fire fee are supposed to cover the expenses of police and fire. It was never intended to do that. The police fee brings in about $900,000 a year. The police budget is about 5.1 or 2. The fire fee brings in about $1.5 million a year based on square foot, and the budget for the fire department is again about 5.1 or 2. Those fees were never intended to pay for police and fire. It was only intended to offset the cost of police and fire.
So where did those extra funds come from then? Maybe the streets that haven't been paid?
I'm not sure we're talking about extra funds. Most of our budget, over half our budget, is contingent on business occupation taxes. The tax that businesses collect when they do business and send to the city. Another big chunk, not big chunk, but another small chunk really is property taxes. And then there's police fees or fire fees. Sanitation does pay for itself. That's one of the fees that you pay to have your trash picked up, that actually does pay for the entire operation.
I understand your concern, and I appreciate our police and our fire department just as well as the next seller, but shouldn't we address raising that fee instead of imposing the user fee and using some of that to make up for the loss?
It could have been. It could have been, they could have raised the police fee, they could have raised the fire fee. When I say that, I'm on city council, they could have raised any of those. They could have maxed out business occupation tax. They could have imposed a utility tax. There's a lot of things there were a lot of options that we offered as barriers to the service today, and for a number of reasons. You have some, quick one, okay, one more.
What about phase 2 and phase 3 of Point Park? Could you tell us what the costs are and what is going to be done in those 2 extra phases?
Well, I could if I knew what phase 2 and 3 were. I personally have pretty well done with Point Park myself. It's been a long haul, and it's finished now. If you're asking about the wishes of people to put a bridge across Palm Run, so they can, walk on the other side of that little water or outfall of Palm Run, the city won't have much in that. That's something the Board of Engineers have to do. But if you're thinking there's something else being added or expanding, your information is incorrect. That's in phase 2 and 3.
Thank you.
I know Mr. bragged about putting money into the Blue Cross Blue Shield, though, but the city gave away the lot and allowed Blue Cross and Blue Shield with no provision to hold on to those 100 jobs that were shipped over to India as basically allowed them to give away jobs with no penalty to the people in this area. I'd like you to address that.
Sure, I certainly will. Actually, I'm proud of the fact that we actually gave land away to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it was kind of done this way. We actually traded property with United Bank. They owned that lot. They gave us equal value in that. And we did, in fact, give it to the Development Authority, and they gave it to Blue Cross Blue Shield so that they could build there. And at the same time, we gave them additional community development block grant money. And it did create jobs. It created more jobs than they said that they would create to begin with. Now, the jobs that you're talking about, actually, were not those jobs. They had moved additional jobs down, I think, from Wheeling, must be, I don't want to misquote where it came from. It took care of one line of business, I think it was Federal Boys, as a matter of fact, and that is the part you're talking about that was resourced overseas.
First of all, I want to thank you for your answer, and second of all, address this. Would it not be prudent, not only for this city, but every city in the United States that gives away land to businesses to generate revenue, to any jobs that not only be brought to that area, either be kept and not outsourced or be penalized financially?
Well, yes, and they do contribute. They contribute a great deal. Blue Cross and Blue Shield, in some lines of business, actually do pay business occupation tax. There was a story that they didn't pay any. Secondly, the job they create and keep downtown adds to the economy because they could have built outside the city much cheaper. They were looking to do that. And what would have happened had they done that, and that's why we helped with it, was the 600 job or 500 job, whatever it was at the time, that were spread among 3 or 4 buildings. All those people would have left downtown. And that would have drastically affected any of the restaurants or businesses that were trying to start up during that period of time. So Blue Cross Blue Shield and their employees contribute a lot of money to the downtown and the city.
I'll agree with that. Like I said, I just, think that you still dodged my question that you did not, you said contribute. I did not say a word about contribute. I said penalize, sir. The word penalty means being charged a tax or fee, just as we have been taxed and fee with the user fee because of jobs disappearing. And like I said, you dodged my question. My question is, wouldn't it be prudent, and the answer could have just been yes, and we didn't allow for it, but wouldn't it be prudent to penalize for these jobs? Unfortunately, as you mentioned, B&O tax, and I will be done with this and let you answer, and I want to know what section of code that says, well, I've heard it's illegal for you to print. What section of code, state or local, does not allow you to print B&O taxes that are unpaid, overdue, because businesses that pay their fair share, businesses that do not, sure do not help our economy.
I talked to the city attorney about the B&O tax not being published, and I still don't fully understand the question about penalizing. We're in no position to penalize companies that move off overseas. I mean, the federal government apparently can't even do that, but certain city departments would be in that position and move forward.
They publish my taxes and they want to pay on the phone. What's the difference between that and me? Oh, yeah.
My question is, what is the city doing to collect past veto taxes? And why couldn't we publish it in the paper? Because as a citizen, I would be less likely to frequent a business that's not paying their fair share. And it can be done in the state because Huntington just published some WSAZ for the cash collection, people that haven't paid it. So why don't we do something like that?
We can publish things like trash collection and other. The only thing we can't publish is business and occupation tax. And so again, we just have to ask the city attorney. I mean, if you email me, I'll have him respond to that. Seriously, I'm all trying to answer the legal question. But the rest of them do get published. As a matter of fact, we published a bunch of it last year. It was back, trash, police, fire fees, all that was published.
And my next question is, why can't we change the city charter to, instead of having pensions like a lot of cities are doing, they're going to 401 matching 401ks that match, like a private business. It saves millions of dollars in the long run. And also, why can't we change the city charter to prevent double dipping, where people retire and then come back and still get city and state benefits?
Well, that would be a city charter issue, neither would the pensions. The state law on pensions could be changed, and they have allowed for some different programs, and actually the pension boards of police and fire would have to adopt it. And I know what you're talking about. Eventually, you're exactly right. A couple things will have to happen. One of these days, the pension is going to be just what you said. It'll be like a 401k. And the other thing that will have to happen eventually is that employees or state employees or any federal employee, state or local, shouldn't be able to retire at an early age. And that's what really is happening. And it would have to be changed sometimes.
And my last question to you is, you mentioned yourself that we don't need 6 firehouses. So why don't we cut out 1 firehouse? If we have to rebuild 2 ones to make them bigger, put more people at them to save us money in the long run.
Because having the extra one doesn't cost any money. Now, if we were to rebuild 3 new ones, you're absolutely right, and that's not how we do it. You know, if we actually tore these down and built new ones, then we would give them from 3 to 2.
But if we're cutting a firehouse out, then we don't have to rebuild that one. We don't have to repair that one.
Right. That's right. If we were to do that, but again, my big thing, we talked about the police and fire department hours. You know, I'm very adamant about the fact of having a safe fire department. I mean safe for the citizens. I am strictly opposed to going below the 15-man national standard.
I'm not saying that then.
I'm also opposed that if we're being told that because of the location and the number of stations, that has contributed to the not having very many people die in a fire and never lose a firefighter, then I'm more than willing to hang on to that extra location.
But I'm not saying cut fire trucks. I'm not saying cut firemen.
Give your question again, because I don't want to debate with you on.
Okay. You said we need to replace or repair 3 firehouses.
Yes.
If we drop one of those, then we only have to replace or repair 2. We could take the extra men and extra fire trucks and put them at those other stations. So we're not cutting firemen, we're not cutting fire trucks, we're just getting rid of a building that is long run going to cost us more.
I agree. If we take all 3 of them down, I do not build 3 new ones. I agree with that. But if we have an existing structure, rehabbing is a lot cheaper than rebuilding. Some of them don't need all that much work. So for a little bit of money, we probably for a lot less money than we do it, we get it up to standard. Do I have to do it? No. We can just dump one down. But if it's in your neighborhood, you wouldn't like it, particularly if it's West Virginia and Emerson. And that's the thing we run into. Every time we talk about closing the fire station, I mean, I remember a few years ago, I wasn't even here at the time, that I believe some woman chained herself to a fire truck up at station number 2 because there was some rumor. Of course, they closed it for a while. Those people didn't like that very well. And this last time it was mentioned about doing something at station number 3. We got phone calls from people in that district. And so that's what happens. If you don't live by it, you're fine, but you don't care for it close. But if you live close to it, you're certainly there.
Hi, I just wanted, the other day when I came up to see you and we briefly spoke about a lot of the misinformation that was been given out. Most of us get our news from the newspaper, and when we see one day that you say the city's fine, and then the next day it says, well, we're still not out of the water yet, And, you know, is there some way to address that where we can find out what's really going on?
Well, actually, we are doing well, but we're not out of the woods yet. And the reason I say that is we do have all these things that need to be done, but more importantly, we keep hearing from Washington that there may be another recession. And so, you know, I don't want to sit here and say, you know, everybody relax, things are great, and then about a month from now, we get to just like we went through, you know, during the national election of 08.
Well, I was just mainly speaking about the misinformation in the newspapers. Is there some way that if we're confused about something that's contradicted in the newspaper, we call you to find out?
Please call. My email address is on the website. I get emails from several people in here. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Last year, you said that the user fee was going to be temporarily. How, since it will be for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, it will go on forever?
I certainly did think it was temporary. And the user fee is a fee that's imposed by city council. I mean, if they, at any time, if they wish, they can do away with the user fee at any time they want to. However, at that same time, we're going to find about $2 million someplace else. There was never any discussion to me about the temporary user fee.
Okay, and then you said the city was doing fine, then one time you say we ain't got no money, but then they turn around and donate $5,000 or $6,000 to the Taste of Parkersburg. They want most people in the community call it the Drunk Fest, but they turn around and fit thousands of people intoxicated in their car each night when they leave there. So where's I mean, where we get that money to fund them people like that there?
Well, actually, we didn't donate any money to Taste of Parkersburg. We donated money to the Parkersburg News and Sentinel half marathon, which brings a lot of people to homecoming, and we gave $5,000 to homecoming. The Taste of Parkersburg is something that is that we certainly support, and the area restaurants enjoy, and I dispute the fact that we have 150,000 people what it was they get in the car drunk. We have police officers on standby there, and there's never any trouble there.
You know, just last week they had a chili cook-off at the Point Park. Is that considered a city park?
Is it a city park? Yes.
Okay, and you said there was no alcohol in the city parks. How can they serve alcohol at the Point Park during a chili cook-off?
The same way we serve alcohol at the Taste of Parkersburg and Bicentennial Park. Each time we do that, we go to City Council with a resolution. They vote to allow that to happen for one day.
Okay, where did the money go for that there that they raised on that there for the beer and the admission to get in?
You're talking about for the chili cook-off?
Yes.
That's actually a Chamber of Commerce event. That wasn't a city event.
So the city never made nothing off of that.
Yeah.
So why don't we rent the point out to, like we rent the shelters out at the park for birthday parties and everything else?
Well, no.
Why don't we rent the point out to the Chamber of Commerce or the county or whoever wants to rent it?
We may do that in the future, but the fact this past weekend, the park actually wasn't open. The street hadn't been paved yet. There's a lot of work to be done. It wasn't open to the public anyhow. But we may not. We may not charge for a community event for the community that's invited. Anybody could have paid to go into that event, just like anybody can pay to go to the Taste of Parkersburg.
I'm on the firehouses. Don't close any in my area.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I'm a home health aide. I don't work in Parkersburg, but since our office is in Parkersburg, and I drop my little papers, I think that people know more than I work. I work 18 hours a week. And you know, $250 is not much, but it's a lot to me.
Yes, I understand that.
And I don't work here. I work out of the county. I mean, you know, I don't think I should have to pay. I really don't. And I grumble every time I look at my paycheck, and I pay more for the user fee than I do my Medicare.
If you would email me a situation where you do work, I would sort of look into it and see if we can.
Because I called, and they said, oh, your office is here.
Email me, please.
I don't have an email, I just,
Well, call. I will call. Thank you.
Mayor, it's a lot easier for people who are upset and angry to come running out. But tonight, I want to thank you and the council for keeping an even keel during a lot of challenges. And I appreciate the fact that there are people like you who are willing to go on the ballot and be challenged for election, and your family put up with a whole lot of crap and all that kind of stuff. It's just part of the course. But again, I want to say I appreciate you, and I appreciate the council for the work that they did.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And I want to commend council as well, because they and their families have stood a bunch also this past year.
Since the city's doing well on finances and everything, where last year, where they took the city employees' longevity pay and stuff like that away, why don't they increase their longevity pay, give them a raise back or something, help them back out again? Because a lot of city employees lost all that,
Well,
and they're still paying $250 a week.
I can address that very briefly. Of course, the city council is the entity that gives raises. The mayor doesn't, I don't even vote on it. Having said that, the longevity was not taken away, it just was not increased for another increment. And that's a decision that is going to have to be made in the next year or so. I'll tell you quite frankly, what needs to happen with city wages when the economy is better and when everybody else is doing well also is there needs to be a percentage raise instead of longevity. Longevity robs us of the ability to do that. It robs us of the ability, therefore, to have a high starting wage. That's why nobody applies for police and fire. It robs us in a couple different ways. We can't do both. We can't continue to do longevity pay and then on top of that, do the percentage rate. So there's a lot of things the city council, when it comes to wages and benefits for the city, long cities will have to make in the next couple of years.
They better hold on the cities or the employees' insurance, and put a raise on that there, put a hold on their raises. But you and council didn't get a hold on your raise. You guys didn't get your raise, didn't you?
We don't get longevity to begin with.
You guys got a raise, didn't you?
Oh, 3 or 4 years ago, I did all the employees, yes, if that's what you're referring to. But in this past year, city council or the mayor is eligible for longevity pay. It's just about 8 o'clock. I will take one more question that somebody has, but otherwise I'll.
And she addressed you guys voting yourselves in raises. Wasn't there a recession at that particular time? And yeah, I do believe council deserved what they got. They do a lot in the community. They do a lot of traveling. You know, a lot of people grumble about what council gets. I don't think, for some of the things that they put up with from area residents as well as, all the complaints that they come and address, the council with and try to represent everybody, it was a big raise. And unfortunately, though, couldn't you have turned down your raise in the wake of a recession or done something as a concession before or even offered it back before the user fee was implemented, sir?
Well, again, the user fee was last year. These raises were appropriated by city council several years ago. And your city council can set the rate of the mayor anytime they wish, and you're more than welcome to speak to anything about that. I don't vote for raises. I didn't ask for raises. I don't recommend raises.
Yes, you did vote for a raise. You voted to raise theirs. They voted to raise yours. I mean, that's a tit for tat to me, sir. Irregardless, I didn't. Once again, you danced around with answering my question. The real question was, as a concession, even though you gave yourselves raises in the wake of a recession and everybody see that was losing money, you yourself could have said, hey, you know what I'll do? I'll go ahead and donate my $8,000 raise. I'll donate my $8,000 raise back to the city before I ask for another dime out of a city resident or a city person working inside the city.
Well, again, I don't vote. It's a strong mayor form of government. The mayor never has a vote. So, thank you very much. Anybody else have a question? Anybody else have a question to talk about the city finances? Of course, that's the reason we're here. If not, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. If you have any questions of me afterwards, I'll still be around. So, appreciate your attendance. Thank you.